I'm Barbara Altman. Welcome to Senator Jim Whelan's first ever twin. Can we do it again?
Not quite twin.
No. He was telling me about the twins before. I have twins in my mind. You know he has twins, obviously.
Yes.
Okay. I'm good.
Okay, we have a commercial going anyway.
Oh, good.
Okay,
Oh,
that's good.
fine. Okay, that's wonderful.
NBC40's here, can they walk?
Don't come in, yeah.
Hello and welcome to Senator Jim Whelan's first ever Twitter Town Hall. I'm Barbara Altman, host of Barbara Altman's Front Porch on News Talk 1400 WOND. Thank you for joining us for this unique town hall experience. I'm joined by Senator Jim Whelan. Senator, thank you so much for holding this Twitter Town Hall to talk about the issues that are so important and matter most to Atlantic County residents.
Well, Barbara, thank you for hosting, and congratulations on your recent election to the Radio Hall of Fame. A well-deserved honor. You were a woman pioneer in that field a few years ago. Won't say how many, and you've been a great host and a great friend to so many people in this area. We really appreciate you coming in. We're going to try to answer as many questions as we can. It's new for us. It's new for them. But Twitter's out there. A lot of people, if you said to them, drop us a line or give us a phone call, this is how they do it these days. So we're going to try to get to the questions and answer as many as we can.
Now people will be able to listen in, and of course this will be on YouTube later, and you'll give people that information.
Yes,
as
yeah, we
go
will.
along. All right, so we'll go right to the questions.
Sure.
And we have the first question we'll go to is from Frank, Linwood, New Jersey. Senator, will the $31.7 billion budget address revenue shortages and provide property tax relief if the numbers are reached?
The way the budget is set, there is some money built in for surplus, and if that surplus exceeds expectations, if the governor, and there really is a dispute, frankly, between the governor and a whole lot of economists. The governor's revenue projections were at 5%, that the growth of the economy in New Jersey would be 5%. Most economists are taking a much more conservative number, saying 2.5% in that area. If we reach that 5%, we'll have enough money to do the property tax relief program that we would all love to do. If we don't, we may have to defer that until we build up the revenues and build up the surplus to where we can afford it. We don't want to make the mistake that New Jersey has made in the past, where you give people a tax cut and you don't have the means to afford it. So it's coming. We really won't know until the end of this calendar year, about halfway through the fiscal year, whether we'll be able to accomplish that in the first part of 2013 or whether we'll have to wait until probably the second part of 2013. But I do think that we are going to see some property tax relief, and I agree with the approach. Let's take a cautious approach, especially in this bad economy.
And it is a bad economy. From Nicholas in Linwood, he writes and asks, what can be done to ensure that all of Atlantic City, not just the parts with the casinos and tourist attractions, experiences development, given that the state's new control does not extend far beyond the boundaries of typical tourist spots? And in other words, he writes, what can be done to make sure Atlantic City is a thriving community for people to live, not just vacation in?
As you know, Barbara, I still live in Atlantic City. My day job, I teach school in Atlantic City. So this question is very dear to my heart. I think the advantage you have in Atlantic City is that it's small enough that when you make a positive impact in one section of town, it's not going to be unfelt throughout the town. If we improve things in the tourist district, we make the boardwalk better, we create the opportunity for investment, create jobs. Those jobs ripple back into the community, and we start to see people who've been unemployed get jobs and so on. I think also there are some very practical elements to this as well. Take the issue of safety. When we bring on the ambassadors who are in their garb on the boardwalk, brightly colored, and they're not police, but they provide a sense of security on the boardwalk. And then you have the Class 2 officers on the boardwalk. That frees up the rank and file officers to be elsewhere in the city. We have had, unfortunately, in so far this year, with a little over half the year gone, we've had too many homicides in Atlantic City. We just had one the other day, again in the back Maryland section. And you know, when you don't have enough police officers to cover both the boardwalk and the other sections of town, you see these spikes. But I think with the additional Class 2 officers on the boardwalk, with the ambassadors on the boardwalk, I think you will see a greater police presence in the neighborhoods, which is really, I mean, years ago, they were always referred to as summer cops. You and I remember, and some other folks who've been around Atlantic City, we had summer cops on the boardwalk. And for some, it was a way to become regular police officers. Others just wanted to do the job in the summer. And then when the summer season ended, which was, in our case, the end of the Miss America parade,
Right.
they would be laid off. In some cases, they were teachers or whatever, and they went back to their winter jobs. And this is a little bit of a model like that, except they're not going to be summer cops. They're going to be up there year-round. The other thing, besides the public safety aspect of this, we just passed a bill that I think will have far-reaching impact for Atlantic City. And the most significant element of that bill really wasn't focused on, quite honestly. All the conversation was about mobile gaming devices. That was new, and that was kind of neat, and a handheld device. You could sit by the pool and play blackjack, or stay in your room and play poker or whatever it might be.
What do you think of that? Just
And
as
well, I mean, I was for it. I mean, we have to, just as we're doing here today with the Twitter, I think you have to stay current with the new technology. We have a generation of young people, they literally have the world in the palm of their hands. They're used to everything being there. So let's give them a mobile gaming device, and if they want to sit poolside and, as I say, play blackjack or whatever. But the other part of that bill that nobody talked about, all the stories were focused on the mobile gaming, was a change in the CRETA formula that brought all the money back to Atlantic City. Now, that had been talked about previously, but it wasn't quite accomplished. That, I think, will provide dollars. And those dollars are not going to just be exclusively spent in the tourist zone. They will be spent throughout the city. I see the city is requesting additional dollars for demolition. That's a citywide program. I'm sure CRETA will support that now that they have those dollars. It is literally close to $100 million coming back into Atlantic City for redevelopment citywide, not specifically, exclusively the tourist zone. Yes, there'll be some spent there, but there will be others spent elsewhere. So I think that combination of putting more resources dollar-wise, putting resources manpower-wise, especially in public safety, we will start to see a difference.
The focus, this writer is about the community, and the focus now with the Northeast Inlet, and there'll be more discussion about the property acquisition in Northeast Inlet to do more. Does that mean that there will be more of a community established there, or reestablished as it once was?
Yeah, I think one of the things that CRETA wants to do is sort of finish the Northeast Inlet. It's, you know, more than half done, frankly, and then spill over into the South Inlet. Again, with the new money, the change in the law, which I have to, you know, sometimes I fight with the governor on some things, but in this case, the governor, his office really came to the fore and worked with us, worked with this office here, and to get that change in the bill. Again, that nobody really focused on, which was fine with us. Let's get it done. We want to talk about mobile gaming. And I think that $100 million will give us the opportunity to finish the Northeast Inlet, which is what we think of as community development. No one's suggesting that's not going to be an economic development. That's not going to be a casino or anything else. It's just going to be houses for working people. Come to the South Inlet, you'll have a little bit different, probably not casino, but a little bit different flavor than what we've had in the Northeast Inlet. And I think that, again, that the resources are there to tackle both of these problems, whereas previously we didn't frankly have enough money to do it.
Senator, when you were mayor of Atlantic City, you started that redevelopment of the Northeast Inlet with New Hampshire Avenue, the beautiful homes that were placed there. And did that live up to your expectations?
Well, in fairness, let me just correct you, because the planning for that actually began when Jim Usry was mayor, and we want to give him credit. It was our responsibility to come in, and there were those who said, okay, well, let's just throw this out. And I said, you know, we've done too much of that in Atlantic City. Started down one path and then backed off and went in another direction. We're going to continue the program, and it was really just on paper at that point. But we're going to continue with this in the Northeast Inlet. And I lived in Maine and Melrose, right across from the old Hackney's. Now again, we're dating ourselves. If people say Hackney's, what was that?
Right.
One of our landmark restaurants for decades in Atlantic City. And it's great to see the inlet, the revitalization has taken place there. And we need to continue that and finish up the inlet, the Northeast Inlet, and then spill over into the South Inlet, and also address some of the other issues that we have.
We'll go to another question, just 1 minute. I'm on the boardwalk every morning, so
Right.
I go all the way to the end where there's still boardwalk. And at Seaside and the boardwalk, there's still are 2 homes. One belonged to my husband's family, and as I see that house, and I remember the thriving
Right.
community there, and that's what I'd love to see. Not that home particularly, but that thriving community in that area on the other side of Revel, in the Northeast Inlet.
Well, again, there are plans to bring that back. One of the ideas is to create some a presence of Stockton in that neighborhood, which would be great. So there's a lot of exciting plans, and with the help of the governor now, we have the money, I think, to bring that about.
Are you a part of that, working with the city, or are you
Well,
as much as-
most of our contact with this has been through CRETA, in terms of the John Palmieri, the executive director there, and others saying, get us this money, you know, we thought it was coming and it didn't. It went the first bill, they say we can get it done this time, and we were able to do that.
We'll go to Mark's question from Summit, New Jersey. He writes, don't forget about eliminating county government. Let's return the $2 billion we spend on county administration to New Jersey taxpayers.
Well, with all due respect to Mark, I think that's probably wishful thinking. I don't
Right.
know that county government's going to disappear, and an awful lot of things that county government does
Is essential.
would just get picked up either by the state or, I mean, the county government primarily has the welfare roles, for example, of families. If we did away with county government, the state or the local towns would have to pick that up. So while it may be a nice academic exercise to talk about doing that, as a practical matter, I'm not sure it's going to.
Maybe conditions
It's
are
gonna
different
happen.
in Summit, New Jersey, that
Yeah.
maybe more personal. Meisha from Pleasantville asks if New Jersey could have a superhero, what kind of superhero do you think we need?
A superhero, geez, I don't know. Bruce Springsteen would be my superhero for New Jersey.
Bruce
And the governor, of course, is a Springsteen fan. I'm not sure Springsteen's a Governor Christie fan, but Governor Christie is a
Right,
Springsteen
he certainly
fan.
is.
So,
He certainly
you know.
is. Superhero, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have to consult with some of the teenagers and see who
Yeah.
they think would be a superhero. And Steve from Galloway is concerned about what kind of work have you done for veterans? Is there anything New Jersey could do to help our returning troops?
well, there are a number of things. We just did a bill called Vet Teach that provides an opportunity for returning veterans who are in colleges, you know, enrolled at Stockton or elsewhere. The pilot program will be at Stockton. We hope to expand it to the other state colleges, where they can fast track into a teaching career. And I come at that from 2 perspectives. The first is, as the message suggests, what are we doing for our veterans? Let's make sure that there are opportunities, welcoming opportunities to our veterans to say, hey, you're finished with the service, you're interested in going back to school, here's a fast track to go into a career where you can really make a difference. We know you're disciplined, we know you're committed to public service because you've been in the military. Let's continue that approach, and let's continue that commitment to public service through a career in teaching. The other thing that I see is, you know, we still have a military where the vast majority are male, and I see a need for, particularly at the elementary level where I teach, for elementary male classroom teachers. So many of our students in our inner city environments, in Atlantic City where I teach is one, those.
When is the commercial? Can we have a commercial? Yeah.
When is commercial?
Okay. pardon the interruption there. I'm sure we were having that. But-
Male teachers, that's interesting.
But so many of our students come from single parent households, usually the mom, and the young boys do not have a strong, positive male role model. So to take these veterans and say, here's a career path, we're meeting a need that they may have, and also meeting a need that we have for these young students to have a strong male figure. When we had that bill signing, there's a teacher that I work with at the Uptown Complex who's retired, 20-year Master Sergeant out of the Air Force, and came out and wanted to teach. And he is such a strong force with the kids at that school. Mr. Demmons, and he is a role model for so many of the young boys at that school, not just the kids in his classroom, but the other kids who see him. So that's one bill. There are a number of other bills that I've supported and introduced and will continue to support veterans causes as I have throughout my career and hope to continue to do.
The GI Bill that sent a lot of returning veterans to school as soon as they came back, is that still in place?
We still have that. It's not quite as strong as it was, say, for the World War II generation, but it is still there, and we still have. There are a fair number of veterans at Stockton, I know. In fact, we have some who intern here in our office, which is great. You know, part of it is, and let's understand that the college track may not be for every returning veteran.
Right.
We want to make certain that other job opportunities are there, where there are programs that I support that would provide a tax incentive for employers to hire veterans and get them the training and so on, so that they can join the workforce. So I think that, you know, we need to really, and I think we have learned a lesson from the Vietnam era, era that I lived through, where, and I was not a Vietnam veteran, but you know, even those who opposed the war then, you know, now you hear, you can oppose the war but help the warrior.
Right.
And we didn't do that then, and I think we're doing a better job of that today, and there's still more we can do.
That was a tough time. But the GI Bill, that was there after Korea and also Vietnam. I remember Joe Messick was in school after he returned from the Army.
Right.
And 9-10 Brink. I mean, you must remember 9, who was a police officer.
Yeah,
in Atlantic City.
he wound up being a police chief at one point, yeah.
And, right.
And that opportunity is still there.
And it's still there for
It's
these
still
young
there
people
for
returning.
people who may choose to go into the service
And then
first,
have an
and
opportunity
then come back and apply
teach.
their GI Bill. They don't have to do it to teach.
Right.
The vet teach is just one program that Stockton offers.
Oh,
But you know, not all of the veterans at Stockton, and I happen to have the opportunity. They have a dinner at the end of the academic year, and I happen to be able to get to that. And what these guys do is amazing. They all seem to be near the top of the class academically.
right.
Many of them have a maturity that the kids coming right out of high school may not have. A lot of them, some of them are already married with families and so on, and they're managing to go to school and work and be a husband and father and still carrying a 3.8 or something like
Which
that.
is so you're really involved. I mean, this is you're answering the question now because you are following what they're doing.
Yeah, we do, and
Your
we try,
office is
and we
here
try,
for them.
and it's, you know, it's amazing, Barbara, because I'm at the dinner and they're thanking me, and I'm saying, no, you guys have this wrong.
Right.
I'm here to thank you, first for your service in the military, and secondly, for what you're doing now, getting back into a civilian life in a positive way. So.
And your office is here to answer any question, any returning
Absolutely.
veteran
Oh yeah,
has.
absolutely. We
anything that they
provide
need.
whatever information we can, and as I say, we're very happy that one of the Stockton vets wanted to intern. Great opportunity for us and for him, we hope.
It's really terrific. Now, you've talked a lot about relocating some of the social services out of Atlantic City. And the person, Sarah from Ventnor, wants to know why this issue was not addressed during the time that you were serving as mayor of Atlantic City.
Well, we actually tried to address it. We were not successful, quite honestly. we raised it, and you know, this is classic NIMBY, and I'm sure a Ventnor, and you're a Ventnor resident, and I'm not suggesting Ventnor would be an appropriate site. I'll get to that in a second. But whenever you bring this up, and people say, yeah, it's a good idea, let's move it, and then as soon as you suggest possible sites, people tend to back off.
Right.
I think also we need to recognize that there's another part of the problem here. It's not just let's move it and that's going to solve all the problem. The suggestion that I had was keep a presence in Atlantic City for the rescue mission. Keep a presence in Atlantic City for the John Brooks Institute. Relocate Sister Jean's Kitchen off of Pacific Avenue, but keep it in Atlantic City. It doesn't, to me, the John Brooks Institute, which is more than willing to move, by the way, and Sister Jean's Kitchen right on Pacific Avenue, it's not inviting to our economic mission of tourism. We're a tourist-based economy, and folks see that, and you know that's not what they.
Right.
It's not what they go. You know, you're not going to experience that in Disneyland.
No.
Okay.
Right.
So again, I mean, I will acknowledge it's a problem that I wasn't able to solve then. Doesn't mean we're going to give up. We're going to try to look at it today. I think you have to look to more remote, more rural. Perhaps I know in the case of the John Brooks Institute, they're looking at industrial areas. So you're not putting it into a neighborhood like Ventnor, a residential area, or you're not putting it into a retail area that would depend on foot traffic, but a commercial area that is more industrial in nature, so that they're not looking for the drive-in customers or put it next to a mall. That's the direction that John Brooks is going. It's also the direction I would hope that we can get the rescue mission to go. I've met with the rescue mission several times, talked to Bill Southry. The other part of this is to make sure that we have a model, and part of the frustration, I think, in this issue of homelessness is the recidivism that you have, where you have the revolving door of people go into a shelter, maybe they get some help for whatever their problem is, be it alcohol, drugs, whatever, and they go somewhere, and then 6 months later they're back on the street and back into the revolving door of the system. We need to do a better job at looking at that and saying, okay, how can we really put together effective programs so that we're not just sobering somebody up or drying them out or detoxing them, but getting them into programs that will make a difference in their life. And I know the mission tries to do that, and the other programs try to do that, but at times they're overwhelmed with the numbers that come to their door.
Would halfway houses fill a gap?
Halfway houses would be part of the solution there. You know, better, more available, which is to say cheaper, treatment programs and centers would be part of that. I mean, again, the John Brooks Institute, which does a methadone clinic, they're overbooked in terms of some of the programs that they have. They have more people on the waiting list to get into their residential units than they have beds to put people in. So we need to look. I know it gets simplified, and I've done this myself, and I'm glad that someone emailed this in. It's not as simple as, well, let's just move the rescue mission, that's going to solve the problem. I personally think that's part of solving the problem, because when you have a homeless person in Atlantic City, they have more access to the booze or the drugs or the gambling or whatever caused their pathology to start with than they do to the treatment. But part of it has to be the other piece, which is the treatment piece.
In the morning, you see the ambassadors and the police officers. They're moving people along. They're talking to them. They're stopping. They're fewer at this point than there have been in the past. And is a strong
There's a
effort.
police officer in Atlantic City, Officer Wentz, who's a veteran officer. He was there when I was there, who has really stepped forward and taken a leadership role in going under the boardwalk and waking people up and getting them out and trying to get them to the rescue mission or to a treatment facility and so on. And we commend him for his efforts, because again, if someone's out on the boardwalk in the morning taking a jog or a walk or riding their bike and they're here as a tourist, you know, you're a tough lady. You're going to be out there regardless. You're out there when it's freezing. You're out there. Were you out there Saturday morning?
I was.
Yeah, 105 degrees. You're out there on the boardwalk.
Oh,
A lot of people, you know, they don't want to run the gauntlet of going past the benches on the boardwalk and having homeless people there, even though they may not be threatening. It's still not part of the vacation experience that people
no, of course not.
go for. So
But an effort is being made. I can see the difference. I can
an
see
effort
it.
is being made.
And they're wonderful people. Don Guardian out there every single day, making sure that the people who are supposed to be in place, not talking about the police department, but
the ambassadors
officials
and,
and the
yeah.
ambassadors. I mean, everyone really out there doing their job. But I can see that
It's making a difference.
it
It's
is
great to
making-
hear.
It's making a tremendous difference, and I don't think that anyone need be afraid to approach the boardwalk or to be anywhere in that area, because there are just so many eyes and ears and so many people who are professionals.
And
who are
that's
out
what
there.
we need
Right.
on the boardwalk. And again, that frees up those ambassadors, those Class 2 officers, frees up many of the other cops to be back in the
And
neighborhoods.
they
where
are, and you see them, and
Yeah.
this is encouraging to people who are residents and visitors alike. Let's go on to Summers Point. Maiko has a question. Lately, a lot of attention has been paid to higher education due to the merger. As a college student, I must be talking about Rowan and Rutgers, I am curious about what you hope to do to better New Jersey's higher education. Are there any specific bills at this time that you support that you believe would benefit higher education institutions, and most importantly, the students of institutions of higher education in New Jersey?
Well, one thing that we've done, and it's going to be expanded, and it was originally my bill. We had a little humorous exchange in our caucus because, let me explain what the bill is. It's a public-private partnership bill. And President Satkamp at Stockton called me several years ago. I was still in the assembly at the time, and said, you know, I've been an administrator in Indiana, in Texas, and in Florida, and things I could do there in terms of public-private partnerships on construction projects I can't do in New Jersey. Why not? Well, we did some homework and we came up with a bill that would have allowed public-private partnership. And it's interesting, things like building a dorm. But dorms are now built by private companies, run by private companies, with the food and so on. The private company can make a profit. It's cheaper for the college. It winds up being cheaper for the students to pay the room and board at a privately run dorm than at the college-run dorm. And they weren't allowed to do that in New Jersey. So the other example is the bookstore.
Why?
Well, just historically they weren't allowed. I think there were, frankly, some concerns that the unions had, construction unions, about, you know, is this going to be, and I'll give you, you know, franchises. You know, are you going to have the cafeteria franchise to McDonald's? Are you going to have the bookstore franchise to one of the book chains that are out there? And the answer may be yes. And that book chain comes in and they want a certain look to their bookstore, then that's what they're going to have, and they're going to use contractors they bring in. And anyway, we were able to work through those issues. I lost the sponsorship of the bill when we included it in the ERG bill, which is fine. It was more important to get it done than to have me be the sponsor. So it's now part of the Economic and Recovery Growth Act, which Senator Lesniak sponsored. I worked with him on the public-private partnership, and he said, listen, there's enough goodies in here. This is politics 101, Barbara, which you understand, but there's enough goodies in here for the unions that they're going to overlook this part. So we put the public-private partnership. Oh,
Hold that thought.
We have more questions.
Oh, go ahead. Okay, thank you.
I didn't know we had commercials.
I don't either.
This is interesting. Are you
Oh, we got a lot more questions?
We have more questions.
All right, I'll
too,
try to
so-
brief-
So I'll stop asking
abbreviate.
questions. We'll go to all the questions here. This is that one. Okay, very, very good. All right.
All right. So the public-private partnership then became part of the ERG bill, and you can now do it on a limited basis. Now there's another bill sponsored by Senator Sweeney, which is opens it up even further. Senator Lesniak said to Sweeney, hey, you stole my bill. And I said, Senator Lesniak, well, you stole my bill. It doesn't matter who stole it.
Right.
The point is, and to come back to the question here, we need to do a better job in our state of supporting our state colleges and universities. We are number one in the percentage of our high school. I've said this on your show many times. We're number one in the percentage of high school kids who leave the area. In South Jersey, they go to the Philly schools or Delaware. North Jersey, they go to the New York schools, sometimes the upstate Pennsylvania schools, because we don't have enough capacity. And the public-private partnership is aimed at increasing that capacity so they can build dorm space and they can build classrooms and so on. In terms of the merger, the Rowan-Rutgers merger and the UMD-NJ-Rutgers merger and so on, I voted for that bill. I think the South Jersey piece, and I know we have other callers or people who sent in their Twitter message, so I'm going to try to be brief and speed up my answers, but for the South Jersey piece of that, to have Rowan evolve to a major research university, I think is exciting. The partnership they will have with Rutgers and keeping the Rutgers name was important, so that happened to Rutgers Law School, especially at Camden. But again, I think that we lack a real major research university in South Jersey. Rutgers, by teaming up with UMD-NJ, all of a sudden becomes a top 25 research institution in the country. So I think there's far more good in this bill, and that's why we were able to vote for it. And again, I know we have a lot more questions, so I'm going to try to speed
There
up my
are
answers.
many more, and we'll get to them. I won't even ask you a follow-up. We'll have to redo this and reschedule another Twitter town hall with Senator Whelan. This question is from Kelsey in Mullica Township. You are in favor of raising the minimum wage. Wouldn't raising the minimum wage hurt small business and force layoffs?
You always hear that argument, and most of the evidence that I've seen over the years does not bear that out. What I have suggested to some in leadership is, number one, because it was talked about for this spring, and I said, look, I don't think you can do this in the spring and tell people it starts July 1st. You know, the summer season is upon us. The people who are running the boardwalk rides or fruit stands or whatever it is, or even the farmers, they've budgeted for, so, you know, let's give people enough lead time so that they know the cost of living or the minimum wage is going to raise. So if we come back in the fall and schedule it for next July, I'd be very comfortable with that. I think also, and I know the business community doesn't like this, I think we ought to index this. I mean, last time we did it was years and years ago. So you fall further and further behind as inflation goes up. You index it to inflation every year or two. You make an adjustment, 5 cents, 10 cents, and then you don't have this gap where, hey, when we did it, it was $7.25. To keep that level, you have to take it to $8.50, and we'll see what happens in the fall session.
Minimum wage today is
In New Jersey, $7.25.
$7.25.
It's not a living wage.
No.
Neither is $8.50 for that
No,
matter.
No, neither
So-
was $1.10 back in the day.
Back in the day, yeah.
Right, I mean, but $7.20, that's ridiculous. I mean, how much is a half a gallon of milk when you think about it? But we'll go on from this. Caroline in Bradley Beach wants to know, some people are worried about what offshore wind power will do to the ocean view and tourism also at the shore. Is such a project a good idea?
I think it's a great idea. First off, the windmills will be so far out at sea, they're not going to be sitting at the end of, in our frame of reference, you know, the end of Steel Pier or $1 Million Ocean One or whatever. The closest ones will be almost 3 miles out. So you're going to need binoculars to see them. You know, in terms of tourism, I don't think it has any impact one way or the other. Frankly, some of the advocates, and I am an advocate, some of the advocates have said, oh, people want to go out and see them in the boat by boat. Yeah, that may be so, but I don't think it's really going to make that much of a difference. I think that, although it's interesting, because the ones that we do have in Atlantic City, they had to set up tours,
Right.
because so many people want to see them. So maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think they're going to be so far out that it's not going to impact tourism at all.
All right. Ian has a question about medical marijuana. He said medical marijuana was passed a while ago in New Jersey, yet little seems to be happening to implement it. what is going on.
Well, I was one of the sponsors of medical marijuana, and it's very frustrating that this administration, frankly, and I gave the governor a shout out when we talked about the freedom money in this time, on this issue. I have to say the administration has not been as cooperative and as diligent, I think, to get this done as they should have been. This is a medical issue, and you know I'm happy that here in our county, Mayor McCullough in Egg Harbor Township has welcomed right within Egg Harbor Township
Compassionate care.
compassionate care, people that want to come in and develop medical marijuana, and hopefully they will be approved and they'll be up and running. But my hope when I sponsored the bill was that this would be up and running a long time ago, and it's taking longer than it should.
I think with Leo Chauffeur involved and the other people
Right.
in this region
Yeah.
have such
I
high
you know,
standing and
Leo
responsible.
is an icon around here, his family, and his name associated with it, and Mayor McCullough. I salute both of those guys, and hopefully, like I say, it'll get done.
I
It's
think
overdue.
It is, I would agree with that. I know I shouldn't have any editorial comment, but I agree with that. Catherine in Galloway, I wish to state my opposition to this tax cut proposed by the governor. The municipalities need money, the schools need money, and the property owners need relief from the high property taxes. The only ones, she writes, who will benefit from the governor's tax cut will be the wealthy, who will get a huge cut, while middle and low income earners will get very little or nothing. Our roads here in Galloway need fixing. Has anyone noticed the Jimmy Leeds Road towards Pomona? That's her question, or statement and question.
Right. We certainly have noticed the Jimmy Leeds Road and other roads in our area that need fixing, whether they're county roads or state roads or local roads. The governor's original plan is exactly as the message describes, because it was, we're going to give everybody a 10% reduction on their income tax. And everybody said, oh, that's great, I get 10% reduction. And when you analyze the numbers, the typical wage earner in New Jersey making, say, $50,000 a year would get $80 across the course of the year. $80 is like a slice of pizza a week. You don't even get to buy a whole pizza. You get to buy one slice. You don't get mushrooms on that or sausage, just plain. You don't get a soda with
No
it.
spinach, no broccoli.
So there really is no, no economic bounce out of that, other than at the high end, as is suggested in the message, where someone who makes $1 million a year, they would get $7,000 back. The Democratic proposal that countered that was to do it on the basis of property tax. But as we said in response to one of the earlier messages that we got, we're only going to do it if the revenue projections and the surplus is built to the point that we can afford it. 10% property tax reduction would provide most homeowners in the state about $700. So you're starting to impact the middle class, the working families, in a real way. $700, $770, I think, is actually the actual number, versus $80. But again, you can't do it if you can't afford it. The suggestion on the roads, one of the ways that the governor has suggested doing this is to borrow money from the Transportation Trust Fund. Again, exactly how New Jersey got into the mess that we're in.
Right. That's for Catherine. I hope we answered the question. You answered the question, I think you did. Charlie in Egg Harbor Township wants to know, have you thought about running for national office? If so, what would be your platform?
I am not, thank you for, I guess that's, maybe he wants to get me out of New Jersey, I don't know. But no, I don't have any ambition or things running for national office. I will be supporting Obama in the fall, but that's a topic for another day.
Is he going to run with the same vice presidential candidate?
I'm sure he is, yeah.
Will Hillary Clinton change jobs? I mean, do you know anything about that rumor?
There's a lot of speculation. Generally the Secretary of State can be a very difficult job. I mean, you do travel more miles than the president, because you're the one who goes off to Pakistan, and I just saw the other day she was in Afghanistan.
Right.
So it's not unusual at the end of one term for the Secretary of State to bow out and someone else to come in, but we'll see.
Did you visit with her while she was here in Ventnor?
No.
No, you didn't
No.
see her. Okay. All right. That was very interesting. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
a little bit later.
on the front porch.
On the front porch, we can spend some good front porch time. Frank in Port Republic wants to know, what kinds of differences do you see between North Jersey and South Jersey? Does it affect state government and what you do?
Well, the biggest difference, of course, is just the sheer numbers.
Right.
They're 2/3 of the state, we're 1/3 of the state in terms of population. I mean, if you know, depending on where you want to draw the line, but generally, roughly speaking. So that gives them the majority of the legislature, and that gives us, that means that we have to go and frankly make compromises. I'll give you just one example, sports betting. When we did sports betting, the only way we could get that done was the North Jersey interest said we want it for the racetracks. So the Meadowlands and Freehold and Monmouth are going to have sports betting the same as the Atlantic City casinos. I would love to have been able to do it. And people said, oh, you should have got it just for the casinos. Okay. If I had the rest of South Jersey, I only had 1/3 and I needed 50% plus one. When we did it and included the tracks, I think it went through almost unanimously. So
Our
just
track too, our track here.
our track too, and the former track in Cherry Hill and so on. So it's not going to help the casinos quite as much as we had hoped or thought, but it's the reality of how you get it done. I mean, you need 50% plus one, and the numbers are there, not here.
And it is what it is. I just added that in case anybody wondered if it were the tracks here too, because I think actually, if
I'm glad you did.
If you had to give something, then at least we
Right.
in this region too. Okay, now Robin in Galloway wants to know, now that the Supreme Court has ruled on the Affordable Care Act, what are the next steps for New Jersey implementing the new law?
Well, we had a bill, the exchange bill, sponsored by Senator Vitale, very complex bill that would set up an exchange. The idea behind the exchange is a marketplace for insurance companies and for consumers of insurance to go and get their insurance as cheaply as they can. You know, that bill was vetoed by the governor, and hopefully we will, now that it's the law of the land, hopefully we'll go back and revisit that issue and get the exchange set up for 2014, which is when we will need it.
All right, give you a chance to get a little drink of water.
No, we're
here, so
okay.
we're okay. Peter in Egg Harbor Township wants to know, if you were given the chance to have one bill passed into law as is, guaranteed, no questions, what would be that bill and why?
Oh boy.
That's a tough one.
You know, probably the one thing that I would like to see, and it's a budget matter. So many of these things come down to budget matters, and the prior tweet we had was alluding to this. I'd like to see us put more money into education, especially higher ed. We just don't, you know, it used to be, when Stockton first opened, for example, the state was 30% of its budget. Today it's 15% of its budget. That extra 15% is being made up by the parents and the kids themselves who have to, I mean, somebody graduates from Stockton, typically they might have $25,000 in a college loan. Now, you know, again, when Stockton first opened, most of the students graduating were able to get out without any significant student loan. The tuition was that much more affordable that families could afford to do it. The summer job, working part-time, et cetera. You scrounge a little bit, and you know, you're not taking your dates to expensive restaurants. You don't do that in college anyway. But today, it's starting to become unaffordable for middle-class families to send their kids to college. So probably if there was, because I think long-term, if we don't get a handle on this, if we don't provide opportunities across the board for working families and poor kids and middle-class families, that gap that we see widening now between the rich and the rest of us is just going to grow wider and wider. So if I could do one thing, that would be it.
That would be worthwhile to do. That would be terrific. David of Uniborough wants to know, which of your currently sponsored bills has garnered the most public response?
Well, it's interesting. One we talked about, the the handheld device, we had a lot of public response on that, a lot of media interest, a lot of questions from, even some from colleagues in the legislature, kind of asking me, what is this? I said, this is new. I mean, this is like, there's
Sure.
the only other place doing this is Nevada, and not everybody in Nevada does it. Not all the casinos out there do it. So, that has generated a lot of public interest. Some of the bills you do that don't generate that much public interest are probably just as important or even more important. We did Ricky's Law a few years ago. We're going to revisit that and try to ramp that up a little bit. Drunk driving, an interlock device for drunk driving offenders. And you know, I think that that's a bill that is significant, but may not get as much attention as the the handheld devices. But that's one that certainly generated a lot of interest.
I will have a follow-up question if we'll have time on
Okay.
that one, but Deborah in New Jersey wants to know, what are the Dems prepared to do to stop the opening of virtual charter schools in New Jersey this fall? I'm not, are you familiar with that?
My understanding is that there is a proposal for one in Cherry Hill. I'm not real familiar with that. You know, I have reservations on charter schools generally. I don't want to undermine public education with charter schools when the record on charter schools across the state and across the nation, in some cases it's slightly better, some cases it's a lot better, a lot of cases it's the same. More often than not, it's worse. There are more worse charter schools than better charter schools in the country.
That's
So
interesting.
I think, and there are statistics that there was a Stanford, I think it was Stanford-Princeton study that examined literally charter schools in every state that came to that conclusion. I forget, it was maybe, you know, 20% plus do better, 40% plus do worse, and the rest are about the same as the next closest public school. So I think we have to proceed cautiously. Having said that, we have one in Atlantic County. I think that's great. And I think that reflects what charter schools should be, and that's the Performing Arts School. We don't have a district, you know, we don't have a single district large enough to say, let's have a performing arts high school. But, like the old Fame, the old TV show, the Glee before Glee, right?
Right.
But within the county, we can have one, and we have one in Summers Point. And kids from
Terrific.
everywhere else in the county who want to be dancers or singers or artists or,
Technicians.
you know, or the technical side of it, and so on, they can go there. That's, I think, was the concept at one time was called magnet schools, where you have specialized topics or specialized subjects. Like Atlantic County Institute for Technology is a magnet school. That's a charter school that is sort of a magnet school. That model to me makes sense. The virtual charter schools, you know, I don't know enough about it, but I would be skeptical. I'm skeptical of charters generally, and I'd be even more skeptical of a virtual charter school.
Well, we'll have to hear more about that
Right.
another time. Arthur in Margate wants to know, the airport circle, while he's making a statement, airport circle is a disaster. Is there anything that can be done to redo the circle?
I'm not sure. We get out there. Are we on a break? Okay.
They don't even give you like a warning.
Yeah, they don't. They just come in, and we have just, you know, like
Okay.
one-line questions. Okay.
All right, I'm not sure. That's a county project. And, you know, now that the damage is done, I'm not sure how you get the genie back in the bottle, frankly. I know the county's looking at it. I think when they opened up the other road coming out of the airport, I think that has helped some. But it certainly hasn't solved the problem. And it may be, I heard one engineer say that, you know, it wasn't meant to make people go through there more quickly. It was meant to make people safer. Whether it's safer or not, I guess we'll have to wait a few more months and get the stats to see if it is in fact actually safer.
Betty in Milmay has a statement. New Jersey still has some of the nation's highest property taxes. Leaders make promises, they come and go, but this issue never seems to get fixed. Why?
Well, the real reason is we have a structural over-reliance on property tax. Because when you say, and you know, perfect example, you had the governor talking about cutting income tax. And the Democrat response was, don't cut income tax, which is going to help the rich, as we just described a little bit ago. Let's look at the property tax piece of this. That's, you know, that's a big part of the local government and local school boards. They rely primarily on property tax to raise their revenue. We could increase income tax and provide some property tax relief. We could look at other taxes, and you know, Governor Corzine wanted to raise the sales tax. Didn't work out so well for him. You know, he got voted out of office. So I think some of the things that we've done, and they will take time, where you talk about the 2% cap, you talk about changing the binding arbitration model that we had, that really tilted more in the favor of the unions, police and fire. Now you have a model, I think, that is fairer and more likely to be sensitive to, in fact, specifically says in the bill that property tax and cost to the taxpayers and affordability to taxpayers. I'm paraphrasing, but that's the spirit of the bill. That wasn't part of the bill before. It wasn't part of the binding arbitration process. So we have done some things. It'll take a while to feel the effects, but hopefully we will be able to start to feel those effects in the future.
We'll go on to something else. The Internet Gaming, Delaware recently passed it, and Michelle wants to know, why wasn't New Jersey first?
Because the governor vetoed the bill. And we're ready with another bill. Senator Lesniak, who I mentioned before, you know, we want to be, and we have a bill in that has passed the committee that I chair and is ready to go, and is ready to go on the Assembly side. The governor has indicated he has reservations on it. We said, okay, what are they? Are there amendments we can do to the bill? We want to get a bill done in the fall so that we can be in the hunt. You know, these internet companies are going to come in, and they're going to make somewhere their headquarters, more or less. We want that somewhere to be right here in Atlantic City, and that will be Atlantic City, by the way. We've been able to do that bill without the racetracks. So hopefully we'll get the governor off the dime and be able to get his support on the internet bill.
This is an interesting question. Doug from Egg Harbor City, and we have two more after this. And
Okay.
unless others have come in, we'll give you a chance to take a breather here. Doug wants to know, New Jersey governor is term limited, yet senators are not. Do you think they should be?
No, I don't. I don't favor term limits. I mean, I've been in politics at different offices for a number of years. You know, you get the vote. And if you don't like the job somebody's doing, vote them out. I did 3 terms in Atlantic City, and I lost an election, and that was that. And, you know, I've been in this Senate now this is my 2nd term. People don't like the job I'm doing, they can vote me out, and if they do, then fine, I'll be around. But I think that, you know, we do have elections. I think there are some other issues. One is the reality. I mean, this happens to be, the 2nd district happens to be one of the few districts in the state that is described as a swing district. It's more Republican than Democrat. I happen to be a Democrat. The way district lines are drawn, both at the federal level and at the state level throughout the country, favor incumbents, favor one party or the other, so that, I mean, I think I heard a statistic this year, the congressional seats that are up, they expect there to be less than 60 that will be truly competitive.
Amazing.
And we can sit here today in New Jersey and look across the state and recognize that only 1 or 2 of the 12 are going to be competitive. Hopefully one will be here in the 2nd district, but we'll see. So I think that is more of an issue than term limits.
Stephen in Ventnor wants to know, if you could tell your constituents one thing about state government that you wish they knew about, what would it be?
Geez.
Just one.
Just one thing?
One.
Well, I think one thing is whether you agree with the governor on down, whether you agree with members of your own party, members across the aisle, most of the people that I've met in state government, whether they're elected officials or appointed, whether they're bureaucrats who've been in positions for years or political appointments who come and go with the governor, most of the people work very hard and are there with a real sense of public spirit. And I, you know, again, I'll take issue with the governor on whether it's his tax policy or the internet or other things. But I think he's there with a sense of public spirit, and I think most of my colleagues in the legislature and most of the members of the assembly are there with public spiritedness. And I don't think that always comes through, because we bicker and we fight and we call each other names sometime, and people see that and think these guys are a bunch of clowns or whatever. But the reality is, again, most of these people are dedicated and they work hard and they fight like hell.
They're passionate about
yeah.
what they believe in, what they're doing.
Yeah.
Well, here, this kind of comes to this Rodney and Mays Landing with this question: what was more fun, being a mayor or being a senator? Or maybe I should add being a lifeguard.
Being a lifeguard was more fun, Barbara, but it only lasts 2.5 months, so
right,
you know.
that's it.
You know, I think that.
Actually, you're a lifeguard in another sense.
Well, yeah, but and my teaching job, you know, look, I've been very fortunate to be able to do both, to be a member of council first, then the mayor, then the senator. I'd say the mayor of Atlantic City especially, is probably more fun in the sense of what I think the questions suggest, which is to say, when you're mayor of Atlantic City, it's a city where a lot of stuff is going on, a lot of fun events and so on, you know, cutting the ribbon on Steel Pier or different entertainment things, concerts on the beach, et cetera, things that where the mayor is very engaged and involved in.
Ceremonial.
And ceremonial things and so on. Both jobs require a lot of work and a lot of dedication. So, you know, that part would be probably a toss-up, but I think in terms of the fun aspect of the job, there's more fun to be had being mayor of a city like Atlantic City than, let's say, just being a member of the Senate.
Well, that'll have to be the last question, Senator. I think we'll end on that one. Thank you for joining us for Senator Jim Whelan's Twitter Town Hall. You can listen to my radio show, Barbara Altman's Front Porch, weekdays from 10 a.m. to noon on News Talk 1400 WOND. And for more information on anything you heard today, contact Senator Whelan's office at 609-383-1388. Thank you so much.
See, we still have a regular landline. We still have a
That's
regular
it.
phone, that, you know. But Barbara, thank you. It's been great having you here. We really appreciate you giving up part of your afternoon to come in and read off the questions that people were kind enough to send in. And we thank all of you who may be watching or send in questions. And hopefully we've answered your questions. And if you have other ones, you can send them in. And we'll maybe do this again. Thank you.
I'd love to. Just
Thank
give me
you.
a call. It's my pleasure. And you have a great staff here, everyone. Really.
Yes, we do. I got to thank
Really
Jason and
terrific.
Mike for putting this together. And this was Mike's
And
idea.
Steve.
Good job, Mike Suleiman. Where are you? Thank you, Mike.
All of you.
Thanks, Jason, for your help.
And the people, they asked interesting questions, and hopefully they'll do it again. And they
Great.
can watch this on YouTube,
Yep, YouTube/NJ Sendems,
YouTube /
NJ Sendems.
NJ Sendems, SENDEMS, Sendems.
Right.
All right.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.